Oh, look, I think this is pretty simple. We've just applied some discretion. You know, the rules are very specific about what suspended players can and can't do. But this is a grand final. He's made a phenomenal contribution to their club, which is why we've allowed him to be on the field at the end of the game. And he'll be in the lap of honour, he'll be in the post-match celebrations or commiserations, whichever way they fall on Sunday. And I think that's fair and I think that's appropriate.
Todd, why can't he be in the presentation though? Like, you've relented to a degree. Surely, given the circumstances, you could have a one-off discretion and let the kid up on stage.
Yeah, there's 17 rings and there are 17 players. Isaac won't be playing in the grand final, so the rings will be presented on the stage to the 17 players, but he will be in every part of the post-match, as I said, celebrations or commiserations, and I think that's fair.
Can he go up on stage and actually hold the trophy?
There are two stages, if you remember, post-grand final, there are two stages. The winning team go to the second stage where they have their photos, and Isaac will be part of all of that.
Is it being a bit heartless, you blokes not letting him on stage?
Oh, I think the NRL's decision today is fair, it's reasonable, and it's also, I think it's really important people understand this, it's been agreed with and communicated with the Rabbitohs. And I think the Rabbitohs, if you talk to anybody there, particularly Shane Richardson, I've been speaking to him the last couple of days, he's very appreciative of the way that the NRL's handled this in consultation with the club.
Given the fact it was basically his carryover points that meant he couldn't take the early guilty plea and that cost him, do you think it should have been looked at? You know, he should have been given the amount of games he's played for the Rabbitohs and he should have been shown leniency, or once there's rules, that's it?
Are you talking about the suspension or just...
Well, no, just the fact that basically it came down to his carryover points that he
well,
couldn't take the early plea.
I think we have shown leniency, and I think we've shown a level of pragmatism which has highlighted the fact that the rules are very specific around suspended players. They can't enter the playing field pre-match, during match or post-match. But what we've done is we've looked at those rules and applied some common sense and said, you know what, the way Isaac handled himself here on Tuesday night after the judiciary hearing, for me, was completely first class. You know, he stood up, he shook hands with every one of the panel members despite being given news he was going to miss a grand final. He handled himself in significantly strong fashion, and I applaud him for that. And a direct reference to the way we're handling this is the way he handled himself, and I think that's appropriate.
Do you feel for him? Do you really feel for him?
Oh yeah, well, no one likes to see players miss grand finals. You know, Isaac's given great service to that club, but ultimately getting to a premiership grand final is about the 26 rounds, it's about the final series and the game itself. So I have no doubt that the Rabbitohs as a club will recognise him separately. Yeah.
What are you going to do if he tries to get up on stage, Todd?
That's been doing the rounds on radio this morning and the headlines in the paper about the harsh stance the NRL has taken when, as you say, the way you see it is that you've actually been lenient.
Yeah, I think we've just made a common sense, fair decision to allow a player to be with his teammates on the lap of honour on the biggest stage and in what is the best day for rugby league on the calendar. I think we've shown a fair and reasoned stance on that, and the club equally has agreed with that. And I think it's a good outcome. I think it's a good outcome for the game, for the Rabbitohs fans, but most importantly, it's a good outcome for Isaac Luke.
You say,
What will he do if he tries to get up on stage?
Oh, he won't, and we've spoken to the club about that. And the club and the game have spoken at length about this, and they'll handle themselves like they did this week, professionally and appropriately.
You say there's 17 rings, but is it correct that Michael Ennis will be allowed up on stage should the Bulldogs win, even though he probably won't be taking part?
Well, it is a different set of circumstances because Michael Ennis is their captain, and there's a precedent there back in 2004 when a captain was injured and he got up and stood and lifted the trophy on the stage. So there are some different applications to apply under these principles, but again, until we know the results of the game, we won't know how it'll unfold.
So if Isaac Luke was captain, would he have been able
Well, it's a different story. Isaac's not captain. John Sutton's the captain, and the only person that lifts the trophy at the end of the day is the team captain.
There is a precedent for suspended players, though, isn't there?
Sorry, say that again?
There is a precedent for suspended players not being able to partake in post-match commemorations, isn't there?
Well, it's a rule. It's a rule of the game. But again, we've applied, I think, common sense and discretion on the rule to ensure that it's been enacted appropriately, and I think we've done exactly that.
There's a fair chance that one of Isaac's teammates may give him their ring. Would there be a position for the NRL to provide an extra ring for?
There are opportunities for clubs to look at that with us, and we've got no problems with that if that happens.
Because they are.
He won't be able to be on stage when they lift the trophy originally, but he can do everything else.
What you see at the NRL Grand Finals, there are two stages. There's a stage where the players walk through to collect their rings, and then there's a second stage where they go for the big team photo, where everybody celebrates together, and Isaac will be a big part of that.
Can he be on the sideline during?
Do they hold up the trophy on the first stage as well?
The captain holds that trophy up. But when they hold it all up together as a team, that's when Isaac will participate.
And in terms of before the game, can he take part in anything?
Isaac's more than welcome at the game. I know he'll be at the game, but he won't be on the playing field. And that's a rule that we've administered this year a number of times. We've had suspended players this year step onto the playing field during a team warm-up, and we've had to remind those players of their obligations to come back and sit back inside the stands. And we'll continue to do that, and I think that's fair and reasonable that we've got rules in place for suspended players. But equally, I think on this occasion, the NRL's worked with the club to find a common sense outcome, and I think that's exactly what we've done.
All the theatre, all the
sheds beforehand.
Yeah, no problems. No problems.
All the theatre aside, how big is this grand final going to be? Two of the biggest membership clubs in the competition going head-to-head, massive fan base.
Yeah, it's massive. I mean, single seats available. It's all bar to sell out. It's captured the imagination of an entire city here in Sydney. Anyone who's been through the Redfern community, which I have yesterday, was just, it's astounding, and it shows you again the power of rugby league, not just on the field but off it, and what it does in local communities. I think it's going to be a wonderful day on Sunday. It's a culmination of what's been a fantastic season for us. We're really proud of what we've delivered in 2014. Equally, the clubs and the players should be congratulated for what they've done to contribute to a great year.
Have you got a tip?
No tip. As long as we're not talking about referees on Monday, I'll be very happy.
Just on that, Des Hasler was saying last night he'd like to see the game flow a little bit more than perhaps did in his game last weekend. Is it something you concur with, or?
Oh, I think, to be honest, the last 3 weeks of football I think have been fantastic. I think they've been great games. The second week with 2 one-point games was phenomenal. I think our match officials have done a great job, and equally they'll do a great job on Sunday.
Will there be any thought in the off-season given to changing, or at least looking at changing the weighting of suspensions in terms of finals games? So maybe the amount of points that it takes to miss a finals game would be more than a regular season game or something like that?
The short answer to that is no.